Good day, my What's Study friend. Welcome to day 89 of our 365 days Bible reading series. I am Elizabeth, and you're welcome to today's reading. If you're just joining us for the first time, you are highly welcome. Today, our Bible reading will be taken from the books of First Samuel chapter
24.
to 27. So do well to stay tuned until the end of today's reading. God bless you.
First Samuel chapter 24. And it came to pass when Saul was returned from following the Philistines that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of Engedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel, and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way, where was a cave, and Saul went in to cover his feet, and David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privily. And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him, because he had cut off Saul's skirt. And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, saying, He is the anointed of the Lord. So David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. David also arose afterward and went out of the cave and cried after Saul, saying, My lord the king. And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself. And David said to Saul, Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeketh thy hurt? Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how the Lord hath delivered thee today into my hand in the cave. And some bade me to kill thee, but my eyes spared thee. And I said, I will not put forth my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see the skirt of thy robe in mine hand. For in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and killed thee not, know thou and see there is neither evil nor transgression in my hand, and I have not sinned against thee. Yet thou hauntest my soul to take it. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but my hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceeded from the wicked, but my hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog, after a flea. The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between me and thee, and see, and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. And it came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. And he said to David, Thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast shewed this day that thou hast dealt well with me. For as much as when the Lord hath delivered me into thine hand, thou killedst me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord reward thee good, for that thou hast done unto me this day. And now, behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Swear now therefore unto me by the Lord, that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David sware unto Saul, and Saul went home, but David and his men gat them up unto the hold. In the book of First Samuel chapter 24, in Saul's quest to kill David, in the last chapter, he heard that the Philistines were against Israel, so he went back. But when he came back on his way to kill David, and he heard that David was at En Gedi, so he went there, and he happened to enter the cave in which David was around, and David saw him, but he did not see David. And David took an evidence from his robe by cutting off some part of his skirt. And when Saul had finished, he had the opportunity to kill him, and his men told him, "Oh, you should kill Saul." But he said he would not put forth his hand to the Lord's anointed. So when Saul had finished, he went out of the cave, and on his way out, when he had gone forth a bit, David came out and shouted, "My king!" And he waved down Saul, and Saul acknowledged his voice. And he told him that he had an opportunity to kill him, but he not put forth his hand. That see that did they tell him that he was after him, David was after Saul, that he doesn't have any intention of hurting him. That why does he feel like that? And then he told him that he would not kill his Lord's anointed, and Saul was apologetic, which and he went back without harming David. First Samuel chapter 25. And Samuel died, and all the Israelites were gathered together, and lamented him, and buried him in his house at Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. And there was a man in Maon, whose possessions were in Carmel. And the man was very great, and he had 3,000 sheep, and 1,000 goats, and he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife Abigail, and she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil in his doings, and he was of the house of Caleb. And David heard in the wilderness that Nabal did shear sheep. And David sent out 10 young men, and David said unto the young men, Get you up to Carmel, and go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus shall ye say to him that liveth in prosperity, Peace be both to thee, and peace be to thine household, and peace be unto all that thou hast. And now I have heard that thou hast sharers. Now the shepherds which were with us, we hurt them not, neither was there aught missing unto them all the while they were in Carmel. Ask the young men, and they will shew thee. Wherefore, lest the young men find favour in thine eyes, for we come in a good day. Give, I pray thee, whatsoever cometh to thine hand unto thy servants and to thy son David. And when David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all those words in the name of David, and ceased. And Nabal answered David's servants and said, Who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? There be many servants nowadays that break away every man from his master. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my flesh that I have killed for my sharers, and give it unto men whom I know not whence they be? So David's young men turned their way and went again and told him all those sayings. And David said unto his men, Gird ye on every man his sword. And they girded on every man his sword. And David also girded on his sword. And there went up after David about 400 men, and 200 abode by the stuff. But one of the young men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, saying, Behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to salute our master, and he railed on them. But the men were very good unto us, and we were not hurt, neither missed we anything, as long as we were conversant with them when we were in the field. They were a wall unto us both by night and day, all the while we were with them, keeping the sheep. Now therefore know and consider what thou wilt do, for evil is determined against our master and against all his household, for he is such a son of Belial that a man cannot speak to him. Then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 bottles of wine and 5 sheep ready dressed, and 5 measures of parched corn, and 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and laid them on asses. And he said unto her servant, Go on before me, behold, come after you. But she told not her husband Nabal. And it was so, as she rode on the asses, that she came down by the covert of the hill, and behold, David and his men came down against her, and she met them. Now David had said, Surely in vain have I kept all that these fellows had in the wilderness, so that nothing was missed of all that pertained unto him, and he hath requited me evil for good. So and more also do God unto the enemies of David, if I leave all that pertained to him by the morning light, any that pissed against the wall. And when Abigail saw David, she hasted and lighted off the ass, and fell before David on her face, and bowed herself to the ground, and fell at his feet, and said, Upon me, my Lord, upon me let this iniquity be, and let thine handmaid, I pray thee, speak in thine audience, and hear the words of thine handmaid. Let not my Lord, I pray thee, regard this man of Belial, even Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and follow is with him. But I, thine handmaid, saw not the young men of my Lord whom thou didst send. Now therefore, my Lord, as the Lord liveth, as thy soul liveth, seeing the Lord hath withholden thee from coming to shed blood, and from avenging thyself with thine own hand, now let thine enemies and they that seek evil to my Lord be as Nabal. And now this blessing which thine handmaid had brought unto my Lord, let it be given unto the young men that follow my Lord. I pray thee, forgive the trespass of thine handmaid, for the Lord will certainly make my Lord a sure house, because my Lord fighteth the battles of the Lord, and evil hath not been found in thee all thy days. Yet a man is risen to pursue thee and to seek thy soul, but the soul of my Lord shall be bound in bundle of life with the Lord thy God, and the souls of thy enemies them shall he sling out as out of the middle of a sling. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord shall have done to my Lord according to all good that he had spoken concerning thee, and he shall have appointed thee ruler over Israel, that this shall be no grief unto thee, nor offense of heart unto my Lord, either that thou hast shed blood causeless, or that my Lord avenged himself. But when the Lord shall have dealt well with my Lord, then remember thine handmaid. And David said to Abigail, Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, which sent thee this day to meet me, and blessed be thy advice, and blessed be thou, which thou hast kept me this day from coming to shed blood, from my avenging myself with my own hand. For in verity, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, which had kept me back from hurting thee, except thou hadst hasted to come to meet me, surely there had not been left unto Nabal by the morning light any that paced against the wall. So David received of her hand that which she had brought him, and said unto her, Go up in peace to thy house. See, I have hearkened to thy voice, and have accepted thy person. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he held a feast in his house, like the feast of a king. And Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunk. Wherefore she told him nothing, less or more, until the morning light. But it came to pass in the morning, when the wine was gone out of Nabal, and his wife had told him these things, that his heart died within him, and he became as a stone. And it came to pass about 10 days after, that the Lord smote Nabal, and he died. And when David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, Blessed be the Lord, that hath pleaded the cause of my reproach from the hand of Nabal, and hath kept his servant from evil. For the Lord had returned the wickedness of Nabal upon his own head. And David sent and communed with Abigail to take her to him to wife. And when the servants of David were come to Abigail to Carmel, they spake unto her, saying, David sent us unto thee to take thee to him to wife. And she arose and bowed herself on her face to the earth, and said, Behold, let thine handmaid be a servant to wash the feet of the servant my lord. And Abigail hasted and arose and rode upon an ass with 5 damsels of her that went after her, and she went after the messengers of David, and became his wife. David also took Ahinoam of Jezreel, and they were also both of them his wives. But Saul had given Michal his daughter, David's wife, to Phalti, the son of Laish, which was of Galim. And Samuel died in 1 Samuel chapter 25, and he was buried in his house in Ramah. And David went to Paran. Also, 1 Samuel chapter 25 talks about David's encounter with Nabal, a man from the house of Caleb, and his wife Abigail, who was of good understanding, a good woman. And he was near their place, and he sent men. David sent about 10 men to go to Nabal to greet him and plead for some things for them to have on their way, on their journey. And when they went there, they greeted him and told him all that David had said, in that David's men had protected his shearers, which he had, his shepherds. He kept them from evil, and they had been good to them in the time they were near their field with their sheep. But their master Nabal did not hear. He was like, why would they come? That does he have? Will he just give anybody his inheritance and his food and his bread? And when they went back, and David heard this, he was very, very angry, and said that he would kill Nabal. And he girded himself with armor and went with some of his men to kill Nabal. Then Abigail, his wife, heard this from one of the shearers of the sheep that saw them when they came in. He told this to Abigail, and Abigail heard this. She gathered bread, about 200, and some other items, and she went to meet David. And she sent her servant on with the items, and she didn't tell her husband Nabal. And when she had done this, she met David when on his way coming to kill Nabal, and she acknowledged his goodness and apologized for what her husband had done. And David told her thank you, that if not, he would have gone to kill somebody, taking vengeance instead of the Lord. And David's anger was calmed, and he went back on his way. And Abigail went back home and celebrated. She threw a feast, and Nabal drank drunk. And the next morning she told Nabal what had happened. And when this had happened, Nabal, by the grace of God, he was smote in 10 days. That means he died in 10 days. And when David heard this news, he was happy that the Lord had avenged him of his enemies. And he said that all his enemies too will be avenged as well. And he took Abigail to be his wife. And also he took Ahinoam, a Jezreelitess, to be his wife. 1 Samuel chapter 26. And the Ziphites came unto Saul to Gibeah, saying, Doth not David hide himself in the hill of Achilah, which is before Jeshimon? Then Saul arose and went down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him, to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul pitched in the hill of Hakilah, which is before Jeshimon, by the way. But David abode in the wilderness, and he saw that Saul came after him into the wilderness. David therefore sent out spies, and understood that Saul was come in very deed. And David arose and came to the place where Saul had pitched. And David beheld the place where Saul lay, and Abner the son of Ner, the captain of his host. And Saul layeth in the trench, and the people pitched round about him. Then answered David and said to Ahimelech the Hittite, and to Abishai the son of Zeruiah, brother to Joab, saying, Who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abishai said, I will go down with thee. So David and Abishai came to the people by night, and behold, Saul lay sleeping with a trench, and his spear stuck in the ground at his bolster. But Abner and the people lay round about him. Then said Abishai to David, God hath delivered thine enemy into thine hand this day. Now therefore let me smite him, I pray thee, with the spear, even to the earth at once, and I will not smite him the second time. And David said to Abishai, Destroy him not, for who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed, and be guiltless? David said furthermore, As the Lord liveth, the Lord shall smite him, or his day shall come to die, or he shall descend into battle and perish. The Lord forbid that I should stretch forth mine hand against the Lord's anointed. I pray thee, take down now the spear that is at his bolster, and the cruse of water, and let us go. So David took the spear and the cruse of water from Saul's bolster, and they got them away, and no man saw it, nor knew it, nor neither awaked, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord was falling upon them. Then David went over to the other side, and stood on the top of the hill afar off, a great space being between them. And David cried to the people, and to Abner the son of Ner, saying, Answerest thou not, Abner? Then Abner answered and said, Who art thou that criest to the king? And David said to Abner, Art not thou a valiant man? And who is like to thee in Israel? Wherefore then hast thou not kept thy lord the king? For there came one of the people in to destroy the king thy lord. This thing is not good that thou hast done. As the Lord liveth, ye are worthy to die, because you have not kept your master, and the Lord's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is, and the cruse of water that was at his bolster. And Saul knew David's voice, and said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And David said, It is my voice, my lord, O king. And he said, Wherefore doth my Lord pursue after his servant? For what have I done, and what evil is in mine hand? Now therefore I pray thee, let my Lord the king hear the words of his servant. If the Lord hath stirred thee up against me, let him accept an offering. But if there be the children of men, cursed be they before the Lord, for they have driven me out this day from abiding in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, Go serve other gods. Now therefore let not my blood fall to the earth before the face of the Lord, for the king of Israel is come out to seek a flea, as when one doth hunt a partridge in the mountains. Then said Saul, I have sinned. Return, my son David, for I will no more do thee harm, because my soul was precious in thine eyes this day. Behold, I have played the fool, and I have erred exceedingly. And David answered and said, Behold the king's spear, and let one of the young men come over and fetch it. And the Lord render to every man his righteousness and his faithfulness. For the Lord delivered thee into my hand today, but I will not stretch forth my hand against the Lord's anointed. And behold, as thy life was much set by this day in my eyes, so let my eyes be much set by in the days of the Lord, and let him deliver me out of all tribulation. Then Saul said to David, Blessed be thou, my son David. Thou shalt both do great things, and also shalt still prevail. So David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. 1 Samuel chapter 26 talks about how Saul went after David again around the wilderness of Ziph. And when the Ziphites heard this, they told David, and David went and sent spies, and he saw that Saul really came to kill him. And when he had done this, he went around there where Saul was, and God had caused a great sleep to come over him and his men. So he went to where Saul was and took his spear that was put on the ground beside him, and his cruse of water for evidence. And when he had gone away, when Saul had awoken to pursue after him and came to David, David said, why is it that he pursued after him, and what had he done that he is seeking to kill him as the partridge, as he's hunting like a wild animal? So Saul went back after he had apologized. 1 Samuel chapter 27. And David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines. And Saul shall despair of me to seek me any more in any coast of Israel. So shall I escape out of his hand. And David arose, and he passed over with the 600 men that were with him unto Achish, the son of Maok, king of Gath. And David dwelt with Achish at Gath, he and his men, every man with his household, even David with his two wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's wife. And it was told Saul that David fled to Gath, and he sought no more again for him. And David said unto Achish, If I have now found grace in thy eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there. For why should thy servant dwell in a royal city with thee? And Achish gave him Ziklag that day. Wherefore Ziklag pertained unto the kings of Judah unto this day. And the time that David dwelt in the country of the Philistines was a full year and 4 months. And David and his men went up and invaded the Jeshurites and the Jezreelites and the Amalekites, for those nations were of the old inhabitants of the land, as thou goest to Shur, even unto the land of Egypt. And David smote the land, and left neither man or woman alive, and took away the sheep and oxen, and the asses, and the camels, and the apparel, and returned and came to Achish. And Achish said, Whither have ye made a road today? And David said, Against the south of Judah, and against the south of the Jerahmeelites, and against the south of the Kenites. And David saved neither man nor woman alive to bring tidings to Gath, saying, Lest they should tell on us, saying, So did David, and so will be his manner all the while he dwelleth in the country of the Philistines. And Achish believed David, saying, He hath made his people Israel utterly to abhor him, therefore he shall be my servant forever. In the book of First Samuel chapter 27, David reasoned that if he be with the Philistines, that Saul will not go after him any further. So he went to Achish of Gath, and he went to him, and he stayed under his shelter for a year and some months. And this was after he had asked Achish to at least give him a land outside his own inhabitants, and he gave him Ziklag to stay, and Ziklag remained a nation under the Israelites. So after that 1 year and some months, David went and slew some of the old inhabitants of Egypt. Those included the Jezreelites, the Jeshurites, and he killed all the men and women and left none alive. And he took all the asses and all the cow and some of the spoil and as spoil. And he went to Achish. He didn't tell him that he had taken these towns, and he had killed those people. And because he killed every one of them so that they would not go and tell on him. And Achish believed him and made David his servant, and was okay with David dwelling with him.
I'm so glad you made it to the end of today's reading. It's been awesome reading with you. I hope to see you tomorrow for another day studying God's Word. Have a nice day.